What's up, everyone? I'm Bryce Carter,
I'm Jared Hamlin.
and we're part of Triple Play Fantasy, and we're going to do a fantasy basketball outlook on the Philadelphia 76ers and Brooklyn Nets trade that just took place yesterday. Um, Jared, what did you think about the trade? Let's start off with that.
It was to be expected that Ben Simmons was going to leave the Sixers. It was kind of only a matter of time. But, going for James Harden is a pretty big statement, but I think it's one that's going to make Joel Embiid happy and the Sixers fans happy for at least this playoff run.
Yeah, Jared, to be honest, I was in class when I got the notification on my phone. I was very surprised because I thought the Nets would kind of stick together. Because KD, Harden, and Kyrie, that's three of the most talented, gifted offensive players we've seen in our lives. And I thought all three of them together, they would just dominate the playoffs. And I thought they would get healthy at the right time. But obviously, some players had disagreements and it just didn't work out. So,
Yeah, you'd think players like this, three of the greatest players of this generation, would be able to work something out and play more than 16 games together and at least put a playoff run together. But
the craziest thing was they were 13-3 together. So, it's one of
yeah,
the biggest what ifs in NBA history. And it's really crazy.
yep.
But on
Now
to
let's get into the trade.
uh, in the trade, the 76ers, they received James Harden as well as Paul Millsap. And the Nets received Ben Simmons, Steph Curry, excuse me, Andre Drummond, and two first-round picks. So, Jared, who do you think won the trade?
In my opinion, it's not as clear cut as it may seem at first glance. I still do believe the Nets may have won the trade just due to a shooter like Seth Curry, another big added to a rotation of Nick Claxton and LaMarcus Aldridge. And honestly, you're getting Ben Simmons already added to a star-studded team with like players like we mentioned, KD, Kyrie Irving, and honestly, two first-round picks that could be traded or used. I mean, it's a great thing to have. But I think Harden will do well in Philadelphia, and Paul Millsap is obviously a good depth option as well.
Yeah, I completely agree. But I am going to say, I think the Nets won it slightly, though. Um, just think Ben Simmons, the caliber player he is, definitely a top 25 player. He gets slandered a lot by the media, but he's like a player like Russell Westbrook. You would still want him on your team. The intensity he brings every game. Steph Curry, definitely a top five shooter. Almost on the level of his brother. Like just a great shooter. Like that's great around KD and Kyrie. They can just swing the ball to him. They can't. You're not allowed to double team Kyrie or KD in the playoffs, and that's huge because that's what teams love to do. Andre Drummond, that was the only thing I was really questionable about because I'm not sure how much minutes he's going to get. It kind of depends on the game because he's more of like a rebounder. He's not much of a scorer. And they really like LaMarcus Aldridge because of his scoring ability at the five position. But if they're in a rough and tough game with any rebounds, Andre Drummond's the way to go. And the two were first round picks. As you said, they could be used for anything. They could be used to develop in the future or to trade for assets. So, I mean, I think the Nets got a lot in this trade. But the 76ers,
Yeah,
he's definitely not a slouch. Uh, top, definitely top 10 player. And people kind of forget what he's capable of because when he was playing with the Nets, he's with Kyrie and KD, so he doesn't have the ball as much.
yeah,
But people, I mean, there was a lot of recency bias in the situation because when he was with the Rockets, he was
he
averaging
was cooking. He was cooking.
like 30 points. It was crazy. It was one of the most amazing things I've ever seen in my life. And Paul Millsap, another veteran off the bench with a lot of playoff experience. He's never won a championship, but he has so much experience
So
in
much. Yeah.
playoffs. Because around this time of the season, around All-Star break, all you can worry about is the playoffs and building yourself for the playoffs. So, I mean, I think the trade on both sides. I think the Nets won the trade, but the
Yeah,
76ers, they didn't get fleeced. Like it was still a pretty close trade.
I agree. And I think going into more of like a fantasy outlook, I think Ben Simmons, I mean, obviously he comes from a permanent out or day to day IR slot player that you hopefully stashed, but to now a projected top 25 player for the rest of the season. Like, honestly, having Seth Curry, he's still a shooter. He's going to be shooting in a similar, not that similar of an offense, but honestly, having a offense with Seth Curry and Joe Harris, Brooklyn's gonna be shooting a lot more, man.
Wow,
Which
I didn't mean to interrupt, but I completely
no
forgot about
problem.
Jake Harris too. Wow,
Yeah, yeah,
that's a talent on one team. And at the
and
same
then
time, the 76ers, they still have Maxey and Thibault, two very talented young players. So they're going
exactly.
to keep some of their young core. So I mean, I definitely think both sides got something out of the trade, and if they play in the playoffs, it's going to be an incredible series.
I agree. I definitely think a playoff matchup between these two it would definitely be one of the biggest storylines in recent playoff history.
It will be must-see TV for sure.
For sure.
All right,
All right.
now on to the Ben Simmons fantasy outlook.
All right. So yeah, like I had mentioned, hopefully you did stash Ben Simmons, despite all the controversy and drama. But if he's still up in your leagues, open, I would go to the waivers immediately and scoop him up if you haven't already. Um, instant fantasy impact. He is going to hopefully ball out. I think even if he doesn't, just getting pure assists, rebounds, regardless, he will rack up the fantasy points, and he'll always be the one or two option, depending on which one of KD or Kyrie is inevitably out due to either injury or vaccine controversy. So get him if you don't already.
Yeah, I completely agree. Ben Simmons, a player like that, he can give you 30 points, 10 assists. He's a triple double machine or double double machine, and the consistency of the Nets. You put actually since you put all these shooters around Ben Simmons, his assist numbers are going to skyrocket. He's going to have a lot of open lanes to drive. That's what he's really talented at. And if he's been working on his jump shot, it's going to be very scary for the rest of the league. And also, you can't really trust KD and Kyrie injury wise. They're very two talented players, but at the end of the day, they do get injured a lot because of their playing style. And having a player like Ben Simmons, a more durable player, his only issue has really been confidence. So if he can really get into a new system, new organization, and just kind of come in and dominate, do his role, then that's our very scary team. And now on to the James Harden fantasy outlook.
So, like Bryce stated before, when he was back in Houston, he was the main man, main ball handler. I don't know. I think it's shifting from Kevin Durant and a Kyrie-led offense, and obviously James Harden. I think James Harden with the ball in his hands more, especially with an extremely talented big, is basically going from his Houston Rockets side with Clint Capella to a Philadelphia 76ers team with Joel Embiid. So it's a clear uptick in fantasy value for me. I don't know what you think about that, but that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, I think the pick and roll opportunities I'm envisioning in my head right now with James Harden and Joel Embiid, because Harden is a very underrated passer. That's one of it's probably the most underrated skill. People think about his step back, his ability to handle the ball and stuff, but his passing is very underrated. I'm not sure if it was last year or the year before. He led the league in assists, so he's a very good passer. Yeah, I just cannot wait to see this. I definitely expect his usage rate to go up as well. The only other ball handler they have is Maxi, and I think if I'm Doc Rivers, I would rather have James Harden handle the ball than Maxi most of the time. So I think all the decisions are going to be made through him. I expect Maxi to play more off ball. The only thing about James Harden, kind of like Kyrie and KD, he's another because of his play style, he gets injured a lot, and he does have a hamstring injury right now that's been keeping him out currently. Um, so it just depends. With the All-Star break coming out, he'll have time to kind of rest it. Even though he's playing in the game, he'll still be able to rest it. He was the last person picked in the draft, so I mean, I don't expect him to play that many minutes in the All-Star game. So I think he's just going to get accustomed with Embiid. I think they're going to have a lot of practice time. I know they've probably been talking a lot already. And this was what he wanted at the end of the day. He wanted to play with Embiid. He might have said it publicly, but I mean, everyone in the inside kind of knew he was kind of getting tired of the Nets, too much drama. And I think he believes Embiid is more focused at this current moment. And I think it's his best opportunity to win. I think both sides really want to trade.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, honestly. And yeah, so I hope this shines some light on the fantasy impacts, the NBA impacts, and yeah, what a big trade this was.
Yeah, I still couldn't believe it when I was in class yesterday and a notification came on my phone.
Yeah.
I was shocked. I was like, wow, this is really going to change the NBA. This may be a trade that we're going to look back in about 3 months and be like, wow, this really changed the league.
Yeah, changed to the rest of the season, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so excited for the playoffs. I know we're gonna have me and Jared, our roommates. We're gonna watch these games. It's gonna be so exciting. I really cannot wait.
Yeah. All
Well,
right.
thank you guys so much for tuning in. This was our second broadcast together. We're gonna do so many more. I can't wait to keep going.
Can't wait.